All right, so here's the thing. So obviously, we all know the effects of we've had to endure uh, without a father present in our lives, right? Most of us grew up in single parent homes. More than likely, uh, a mother raising us, right? Our mother was law, right? Our mother was the provider. Our mother was the caretaker or the caregiver. Um, she was the nurturer. Our mother was everything to us. You get what I'm saying? But that also has a huge downside to it. All right, and the downside is you only get half of what you need to grow and develop. Right? It's like planting a seed and getting a bunch of water but no sunlight, or getting a bunch of sunlight and no water, or getting sunlight and water but no soil to grow in, if that makes any sense to you. And when it comes to, eventually we're all going to have questions, right? We're going to have a ton of questions about who we are and where we come from and who our father is and why he's not around and why'd you guys break up and why'd you guys get divorced and shit like that. And that's because we're beginning to have this yearning to figure things out on our own. We're beginning to have this yearning to, fill this emptiness that's inside of us. All right. And we only get one side of the story, and that oftentimes that's the emotional side of the story. That's the bitter side of the story. That's the side of the story that's the hurt side of the story, right? That's the side of the story that wants to present itself in the best light possible, right? That's the side of the story that's not so honest. You get what I'm saying? And oftentimes it ends in phrases like, "Well, he ain't shit. He left me. He's not around. I'm your mother and your father." Right? And shit like that. And because of that pain and hatred, we grow uh, a hatred, a disdain, a dislike, because we take that, we take that, what's being said, we take that spirit, or we take that doctrine in as true, right? And obviously we don't want to say things that make our mothers more angry, more mad or sad or things like that. And without ever hearing without ever hearing or considering the other side of the story, we go on living our lives, right? We only hear that one part of the story, and we are too immature age wise. We're too immature spiritually to really understand that that side of the story often stems from a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of manipulation and frustration and anger and mixed and unguided emotions, right? And we tend to take it into our adulthood, right? That's the bad thing. We take everything we've learned over the years, or everything we took in as doctrine, we take it into our adulthood, and that's where a lot of our anger and hatred is solidified. But we're adults now. You get what I'm saying? And that's where we can begin to change our mindsets, and we can begin to reach out and get more understanding, right? And that hatred that's given to us unknowingly, right? A lot of times it's unknowingly. It's years in because we're indoctrinated, right? It's years in, so we become indoctrinated. Sorry, and I just want to give you guys some things to um, hopefully do, or some things to consider when you know you want to start to change that mindset that you have, right? And so here's how we begin to get answers, and here's how we begin to realize, begin to fulfill um, those that emptiness that's inside of us, that that hole, right? This is how we begin to feel it. Like we can start reaching out, right? If we still are fortunate enough to have our fathers in our lives, not necessarily in our lives, but around, meaning he's not passed away, right? If we know where he is, right? If we have access to him, right? Let's begin the conversation, and we have to do this humbly, right? We have to be on that journey to where we really just want to figure things out. We can't have hatred, and we can't go into conversations hate filled and with an agenda. We have to go into these conversations open, open to learning and open to understanding, right? And and don't expect to get everything you need in one sitting, in one conversation, right? You have to begin to develop a relationship, and here's why: because you just spent years being indoctrinated, right? You spent years getting one side of the story. You spent years getting one spirit. You get what I'm saying? And the biggest thing I can say that you must have is patience, right? You have to be willing to listen more than talk. And a lot of the time we will go into those conversations hate filled, and we can never get anywhere when we're just trying to um, when we're going to these conversations with an agenda of nigga, you hurt me, nigga, you ain't never there, nigga this and nigga that, and fuck you, and I hate you, and you did my mama wrong, right? That's all that one side of the story coming out. You get what I'm saying? I suppose that it's natural, right? I suppose that's warranted, I guess. But here's what happens when you're patient and when you're open and when you're understanding. You start to find out things that um, you start to find things out that the way things were presented to you, they're not necessarily that way, right? You start to see that your father has vulnerabilities, and your father has flaws, and he's imperfect, right? You'll see he hurts and he feels and he's been through things probably more than you can imagine. You get what I'm saying? And most importantly, you'll start to see yourself. You understand? And when you get to the point to where you're beginning to see yourself and the conversation or the relationship that you're building to your father, take notice, because that's the point. That's the point where you want to begin to forgive, because you know that you're one or two decisions away from being in his shoes. You get what I'm saying? Especially for us men, right? That's the point when you begin to see yourself and you start to realize, I come from this. That's the point you want to begin to forgive. You want to forgive yourself for the hatred that you have. You want to forgive him, right? Most importantly, you want to forgive your mom for giving you uh, this hate filled mindset. You get what I'm saying? So if you're fortunate enough to still have your father, and you have this yearning to uh to uh to heal and to gain a new mindset, let's begin there. You feel me? So yeah.